The breaking point. Captain Ilara Chen stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, watching as the massive crystalline structure of the Galactic Assembly came into view. The station hung in space like a giant snowflake, its facets gleaming with the light of the nearby star. Beautiful, she thought, but beauty often concealed the most dangerous things in the universe. "Captain, we're receiving our docking instructions," Lieutenant Rivera said from his station. "They're directing us to the diplomatic berth." Ilara nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the station. "Acknowledge and proceed, Lieutenant." 3 years. For 3 years, humanity had been negotiating with the Galactic Assembly. 3 years of concessions, of sharing technology, of providing medical aid and resources. 3 years of receiving nothing but demands in return. "Captain," Admiral Kazuo's voice came through her earpiece, "remember your orders." "I remember, Admiral," she replied quietly. "Negotiate in good faith. Accept reasonable terms." What went unsaid was what would happen if the terms weren't reasonable. The Olive Branch docked with a gentle thud. Ilara straightened her midnight blue uniform and glanced at her delegation. 5 of Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, and military strategists. All of them looked tired. All of them knew what was likely coming. "Let's get this over with," she said. The assembly hall was vast, with seating arranged in concentric rings rising higher the further they went from the central speaking platform. Hundreds of species occupied these seats, from the insectoid vril to the gaseous aetherians contained in their specialized environmental suits. Earth's delegation was assigned a small section near the bottom, as befitted newcomers to the galactic stage. Ilara took her place at the front of the human delegation. At 42, she was younger than most representatives here, but her prematurely silver hair and the scar running along her left jaw gave her a gravity that commanded respect. The assembly speaker, a tall, willowy Solarian with skin that seemed to contain shifting galaxies, stepped onto the central platform. "The 479th session of the Galactic Assembly is now in session," the speaker announced, voice resonating through the hall. "Our primary agenda today is finalizing the terms of Earth's full integration into the Assembly." Ilara felt her jaw tighten. Integration. Such a pleasant word for what was essentially indentured servitude. The Drathian representative stood first. The reptilian alien scales gleamed under the hall's lights. "The terms are simple," the Drathian said. "Earth will provide complete access to its quantum entanglement communication technology. Additionally, humans will supply medical personnel to serve on any world that requests them. The human defense fleet will be reduced by 60%, with remaining ships to be placed under assembly control." Murmurs of approval rippled through the hall. Ilara remained still, even as she felt Dr. Patel stiffen beside her. "Furthermore," the Drathian continued, "Earth's colony on Proxima Centauri B will be converted to a shared resource zone, open to all assembly members." "That's our most developed colony," Dr. Patel whispered. "Millions of humans live there." The speaker turned to Ilara. "Does Earth's representative wish to respond?" Ilara stood slowly. For a moment, she thought of all the instructions, all the diplomatic phrases she was supposed to use. She thought of the carefully worded counteroffers in her datapad. Then she thought of Earth, of humanity's brief but intense history among the stars. They had discovered faster than light travel on their own, had terraformed Mars, and established colonies on Europa and Titan before even meeting their first alien species. They had earned their place here. "Yes," she said simply, "Earth rejects these terms." The hall erupted in noise. The speaker's skin darkened, galaxies within swirling more rapidly. "Captain Chen," the speaker said when the noise had died down, "perhaps you misunderstand. These are not suggestions. These are the requirements for Earth's continued participation in galactic affairs." Ilara nodded. "I understand perfectly. And I repeat, Earth rejects these terms." She looked around the hall, meeting the compound eyes, optical sensors, and various sensory organs of the assembled representatives. Furthermore, by the authority vested in me by the United Earth Council, I hereby announce Earth's complete withdrawal from all interactions with the Galactic Assembly and its member worlds." The silence that followed was profound. "You cannot be serious," the Drathian representative finally sputtered. "I am entirely serious," Ilara replied. "Effective immediately, all human ships, personnel, and resources currently in assembly space are being recalled to Earth territory. All trade agreements are suspended. All diplomatic relations are severed." The human delegation stood as one behind her. Lieutenant Rivera handed her a small device, which she placed on the platform before her. "This is a formal notice of withdrawal, containing the signatures of Earth's Governing Council. We will be departing immediately. Do not attempt to stop any human vessel from returning to Earth space. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our right to leave." The speaker's skin had gone nearly black now. "This is unprecedented. You cannot simply leave." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "Watch us." As her delegation moved toward the exit, a Silurian representative called out, "You need us, humans. Your infant civilization cannot survive alone." Ilara paused at the doorway and turned back to face the assembly one last time. "No," she said clearly, her voice carrying through the stunned silence. "You've been taking advantage of us because you needed us. You just never realized it. You will now." The doors closed behind the human delegation with a decisive thud. In the corridor outside, Dr. Patel looked at her with wide eyes. "Captain, was this the plan all along?" Ilara nodded. "Plan Omega. The Council determined that if the Assembly made demands that would effectively end Earth's sovereignty, we would cut all ties. But the economic impact will be significant, yes, for everyone." Ilara tapped her comm unit. "This is Captain Chen to all Earth vessels in assembly space. Enact Protocol Omega. I repeat, enact Protocol Omega. All ships return to Earth territory immediately." Throughout the galaxy, the message spread. On hundreds of worlds, human doctors packed their equipment. Human engineers shut down power plants they had built. Human scientists collected their research. Within hours, the first reports of problems began to filter in. A Vril colony world lost power when the human technicians maintaining their fusion plants departed. A Drathian fleet found itself stranded when the humans operating their drive cores walked out. The massive medical station orbiting Proxima Arcturus went dark as the human staff evacuated. On the bridge of the Olive Branch, Ilara watched the stars streak by as they accelerated to FTL. "Captain," Rivera said, "we're receiving hundreds of messages from the Assembly. They're demanding we return to negotiations." Ilara nodded. "File them." "No responses. Do you think they'll attack?" asked Dr. Patel, who had joined them on the bridge. "No," Ilara said confidently. "They can't afford to. Too many of their systems rely on human expertise now. They need us functioning and cooperative." "So, what happens now?" Ilara turned to look at the holographic display showing Earth vessels from all over assembly space converging on their home system. Now we wait, and we let them discover exactly what they've lost." Behind them, the first reports were already coming in of systems failing, economies faltering, and panic spreading as humanity, quiet, unassuming, ever-helpful humanity, simply walked away. The reckoning. 3 months. It had been 3 months since humanity had withdrawn from galactic affairs, and Admiral Marcus Wright could see the effects from his command center on Luna Base. The holographic display before him showed the defensive perimeter Earth had established, a network of automated sentinel platforms, minefields, and patrol routes that encompassed not just Earth's solar system, but all human colonies. "Status report," he ordered, running a hand over his close-cropped gray hair. Commander Diaz stepped forward. "Perimeter is secure, sir. No unauthorized crossings in the past week. The Centauri fleet reports all systems nominal." Wright nodded. "And our visitors?" "Still waiting, sir. The Assembly delegation has been in orbit for 3 days now. They're requesting permission to land. Again. Wright smiled thinly. Let them wait another day. The president wants to make sure they understand who's setting the terms now. When humanity had withdrawn, the Galactic Assembly had been dismissive, even scornful. Many representatives had predicted Earth would come crawling back within weeks, unable to sustain itself without access to galactic resources and markets. They had been wrong. Humanity had prepared for this eventuality for years. Secret stockpiles of critical materials, redundant manufacturing capabilities, and alternative supply chains had all been established. It hadn't been easy. There had been shortages and rationing. But they had held. The assembly, however, had not fared so well. "Sir," Diaz said, interrupting his thoughts, "we're receiving another transmission from Regional Governor Talix of the Orion Armed Territories." "Put it through," Wright ordered. The hologram shifted to show a tall, spindly alien with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. "Admiral Wright," Talix said, mandibles clicking in what Wright had learned was anxiety. "The situation in the Orion territories has become untenable. 3 more worlds have reported complete power grid failures. The medical crisis on Vega AX has spread to neighboring systems. We need human engineers and doctors immediately." Wright kept his expression neutral. "Governor, as I've explained before, Earth is no longer providing services to the Assembly. If individual worlds wish to establish direct relations with Earth, they may petition our diplomatic corps. But the Assembly forbids direct relations with non-member entities." "That sounds like an Assembly problem, not an Earth problem," Wright replied calmly. "We've already established agreements with 17 independent worlds who were willing to negotiate fair terms." Indeed, not all alien civilizations had treated humanity poorly. Several independent worlds and smaller confederations had maintained good relations with Earth based on mutual respect. These relationships had not only continued but strengthened after humanity's withdrawal. Talix's upper limbs moved in what Wright recognized as frustration. "The Assembly will remember this extortion." "It's not extortion, Governor. It's consequences." Transmission ended. Wright nodded to Diaz, who cut the connection. In her office in Geneva, President Sophia Rice reviewed the latest reports. The agricultural dome on Mars had exceeded production estimates. The new antimatter production facility on Titan was operational ahead of schedule. And most importantly, the 17 independent worlds that had maintained fair relations with humanity were now forming an alternative interstellar alliance, with Earth as a founding member. Her aide entered, looking slightly harried. "Madam President, the Assembly delegation is requesting to land." "Admiral Wright has kept them waiting as instructed." Reyes nodded. "Tell the Admiral they can land now. Have Captain Chen meet them at the diplomatic port. She started this. She should be there when they concede." At the Geneva diplomatic port, Captain Ilara Chen stood in her dress uniform, watching as the Assembly vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere. The sleek ship gleamed in the afternoon sun, far smaller and less impressive than the massive diplomatic cruisers the Assembly typically used. They couldn't send one of their larger ships, Ilara knew. Too many of them relied on human-designed quantum cores that no one else could properly maintain. In the 3 months since humanity's withdrawal, over 30% of the Assembly's major vessels had reportedly become inoperable. The ship landed, and after a moment, the boarding ramp extended. 5 representatives emerged: a Solarian, a Drathian, an Aetherian, a Vril, and surprisingly, a Xilorian, the same 5 species that had been most vocal in demanding human concessions. "Captain Chen," the Solarian said, skin swirling with muted colors, "we are here to discuss terms for humanity's return to the galactic community." Ilara kept her expression neutral. "Ambassador, welcome to Earth. If you'll follow me, President Reyes is waiting." The Drathian hissed softly. "We expected to meet with your full council. The President speaks for Earth in this matter," Ilara replied, leading them toward the sleek maglev train that would take them to the presidential complex. "Be grateful she's willing to meet with you at all." The Drathian fell silent. As they boarded the train, Ilara noticed the aliens looking out at the sprawling city with what appeared to be surprise. "You seen well," the Etherian noted, its voice coming through a translator on its environmental suit. "We had heard there were shortages." "There were," Ilara acknowledged. "We adapted. A trait your species excels at," the Xilorian said quietly. The presidential complex was a testament to human architecture. A soaring structure of transparent graphene and reclaimed wood, powered entirely by renewable energy. President Reyes waited for them in the Grand Hall, standing beside a large circular table. Reyes was a commanding presence, her silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight bun, her dark eyes sharp and evaluating. At 63, she had the gravitas of someone who had guided humanity through its most challenging era of expansion. "Representatives of the Galactic Assembly," she said, not bothering with traditional assembly greetings. "Please, be seated." Once they were all seated, Rice continued, "I understand you wish to discuss humanity's return to galactic affairs." The Solarian leaned forward. "Madam President, the withdrawal of human expertise and resources has caused significant disruption. We are prepared to renegotiate the terms of Earth's membership in the Assembly." "Earth has no interest in rejoining the Assembly," Rice stated flatly. The aliens exchanged glances. "Then why agree to this meeting?" the Drathian demanded. "To establish new parameters for our relationship," Rice replied. "Earth, along with 17 independent worlds, is forming the Interstellar Cooperative. We will trade among ourselves, share technology, and provide mutual defense." She tapped a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared, showing the territories of these worlds, a significant portion of the galaxy. You cannot." The Vril chittered. "The Assembly Charter forbids competing alliances." "The Assembly Charter has no authority over non-member worlds," Rice countered. "However, we are willing to establish limited relations with Assembly worlds under certain conditions." Ilara watched as the President outlined Earth's terms: fair trade agreements, recognition of human sovereignty, reparations for resources taken under previous unfair treaties, and most importantly, acknowledgement that human technology and expertise were valuable commodities to be fairly compensated, not extracted. The negotiations lasted hours. The Assembly representatives resisted, cajoled, even threatened. But Earth held all the leverage, and everyone in the room knew it. Finally, the Solarian representative sighed, skin settling into a pale blue. "We will take these terms to the full Assembly. I believe they will be accepted, though not without protest." "Take all the time you need," Rice said with a small smile. "We're doing quite well on our own." As the meeting concluded and the representatives were escorted back to their vessel, Ilara found herself walking alongside the Xilorian representative. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" the alien asked softly. "When you walked out that day?" Ilara considered the question. "We hoped the Assembly would recognize our value before it came to this, but we were prepared either way." The Xilorian's multifaceted eyes studied her. "The Assembly underestimated your species. We saw your willingness to help, your eagerness to share knowledge, and mistook it for weakness." "A common mistake," Ilara replied. "Kindness isn't weakness. Cooperation isn't submission. A lesson the galaxy is learning at great cost." The Xilorian paused before boarding. "For what it's worth, Captain Chen, I argued against the demands that drove you away. Then perhaps you'll be useful in building what comes next," Ilara suggested. As the Assembly ship departed Earth's atmosphere, Ilara stood watching from the observation deck. President Reyes joined her, hands clasped behind her back. "They'll accept our terms," Reyes said confidently. "Yes," Ilara agreed. "They have no choice now. You know, when we first reached the stars, everyone told us we were too young, too inexperienced to make it on our own," Reyes mused. "They insisted we needed their guidance, their protection. They were wrong. They were." Reyes turned to look at her. "What do you think the history books will call this period, Captain?" Ilara considered for a moment, watching as the assembly ship became a mere point of light in the darkening sky. "The silent exodus," she said finally. "The time when humanity walked away." And the galaxy realized what they'd lost. Above them, the stars were coming out, countless worlds spinning through the void. Worlds that had once dismissed humanity, and now waited anxiously for their return. Not as supplicants, but as equals. Not as servants, but as partners. It had taken withdrawing from the galaxy for humanity to find its true place within it.